Hello everyone. Today I'm bringing you back once again to the story of Tiu-san, a story that continues day by day, filled with very ordinary moments and quiet yet profound emotions, where joy, worry, and love naturally intertwine. Let's follow Tiu-san together to feel this gentle rhythm of life, where every small detail carries a story of its own. Tring and Tone went shopping for clothes together, strolling slowly past rows of brightly lit shops, unhurried and without any sense of pressure. They stopped in front of neatly arranged racks of dresses, where Tring gently ran her hand over the fabrics, examined the colors, and selected a few outfits to take into the fitting room. Tone waited patiently outside, occasionally glancing around, then turning back toward the fitting room with the familiar look of someone about to become a husband. When Tring stepped out, they stood side by side in front of a large mirror, watching their reflections appear together. Tone tilted his head, looking carefully, and softly asked whether the outfit felt comfortable, whether it restricted movement, and whether the color suited Tring's figure and complexion. As Tring adjusted the hem of the dress, she thought for a moment and replied with very down-to-earth questions of her own. Would it be easy to get dirty? Would it feel hot if worn for a long time? Would it be practical for other occasions later on, or only suitable for a single wear? They discussed every small detail, not to find the most beautiful option, but to choose what suited them best. Their comments were spoken calmly, mixed with small smiles and familiar glances. The atmosphere seemed to slow down, leaving only simple, everyday questions, quiet yet close to real life, enough to reveal a gentle care and an understanding built over time, creating a sense of warmth and intimacy, ordinary and comforting, like that of any couple on the verge of marriage. While shopping, after selecting a few items for Tring and neatly hanging them over his arm, Tone began to pay more attention to the surrounding racks. His gaze lingered on rows of carefully arranged clothes, as if weighing something in his mind. Thinking of his mother, Tone slowed his steps and looked more closely at the pieces in front of him, from the designs to the colors, then gently shook his head upon realizing that most of them were meant for younger people. The modern styles, fitted cuts, and bright colors were eye-catching, but they didn't truly seem suitable for someone older. Tone softly voiced his thoughts, partly as a way of sharing, partly as a reminder to himself. Hearing this, Tring followed his gaze, carefully browsing through a few items as well, then nodded in agreement. She said these shops were probably not the right place to look for clothes for his mother, as it was hard to find something both elegant and easy to wear. Neither of them seemed disappointed. They simply acknowledged it as a very normal part of the preparation process. They exchanged a few brief remarks and agreed to move on to another store, one that carried more age-appropriate designs, with softer fabrics, subdued colors, and comfortable silhouettes. The conversation continued naturally, shifting from buying clothes for his mother to what else was still missing for both families, which items should be purchased first, and which could wait until later. From time to time, Tring added a few small details. Tone listened, nodded, and quietly noted them in his mind. The atmosphere remained light and calm, with no sense of haste or pressure. Their conversation about preparing for the families and the upcoming wedding unfolded slowly and simply, like a familiar part of everyday life, where the two of them shared, planned, and looked together toward the things they would build ahead. Tone's mother suddenly suffered a heart attack after an overwhelming emotional shock, causing the atmosphere around them to freeze for a brief moment. All sounds seemed to fade into the distance, leaving only her rapid breathing and the pallor spreading across her face. Realizing something was wrong, Tone stood stunned for a split second before rushing forward, forcing himself to stay calm despite the panic surging inside. He supported his mother, helped her lie down more comfortably, his voice trembling yet clear as he called out to those around him for help. Tone quickly phoned the doctor, listening carefully to the instructions while searching for the prescribed medication. His hands shook slightly, but every movement was deliberate and careful, not daring to make even the smallest mistake. He kept watching his mother's complexion, leaning close to catch her breathing, with only one thought in his mind: to help her stabilize as quickly as possible. While waiting for the doctor to arrive, Tone stayed by his mother's side without leaving her for a moment. He held her hand tightly, softly calling to her and gently reassuring her, trying to keep his voice steady so she wouldn't become more frightened. His eyes followed every small reaction, every faint movement, his face tense, yet his emotions held firmly in check. When the doctor arrived and began the examination, Tone stood close by, listening intently to every explanation and instruction, nodding repeatedly as if afraid of missing anything. At that moment, all of his attention was focused on his mother, wishing only for her condition to improve. Amid those chaotic moments, Tone did not forget about Trang. He turned to look at her, his eyes full of worry but still composed, softly saying a few words to reassure her, telling her not to panic and to feel at ease. Tone assured her that he would handle everything calmly, without letting misunderstandings or heightened emotions make the situation worse. He explained that once his mother was more stable and her health had improved, he hoped Trang would come and speak with her directly, so that everything could be shared slowly, clearly, and with greater understanding. Tone was forced to confess to his father the shocking truth he had kept hidden all this time. The baby Trang was carrying was not his biological child. The moment he spoke those words, Tone felt a heavy weight pressing against his chest. His voice dropped, each sentence delivered slowly and carefully, as if he had thought long and hard before deciding to face the truth. He explained clearly that his relationship with Trang had begun without any calculation or ulterior motives. When they came together, Trang had only recently ended her previous relationship and was still emotionally unsettled, and neither of them knew that she was pregnant. It was only as time passed and the signs became more obvious that Trang discovered the truth at a point already quite late, when it was no longer something that could be easily hidden or changed. Tone emphasized to his father that Trang had not deceived him, nor had she intentionally concealed anything. He insisted that it was all simply a chain of unforeseen events, unfolding before either of them fully understood what was happening. His voice carried firmness and protectiveness, making it clear that Trang was not at fault, that she had not entered this relationship with calculation or deceit, but with sincerity and under circumstances she herself had not been able to recognize from the very beginning. Even after knowing the full truth, Tone did not change his decision. He told his father that the feelings he had for Trang did not come from a sense of responsibility or obligation, but from genuine love that had grown through the time they spent together. Tone affirmed that he was willing to care for and protect both Trang and her child, to regard the baby as part of the life he had chosen, because to him, what mattered most was not blood ties, but sincere affection and emotional bonds. In a gentle voice, Tone asked his father to support him, not through hasty acceptance, but by giving him time to prove that his choice was serious and responsible. He also hoped his father would help persuade his mother so that she could better understand the circumstances, understand that Trang had no intention to deceive anyone, and see that he was trying to do the best and most right thing within his ability. There was urgency in Tone's words, mixed with anxiety, because he clearly understood how important his father's role and voice were at this moment. Listening to his son, Tone's father remained silent for a long while before slowly admitting that he could not accept the truth immediately. The shock was too great, too sudden, leaving his thoughts and emotions in turmoil. He said that he needed time to think, to sort everything out in his mind, because not everyone can calmly accept such a heavy truth overnight. Tone's mother fell into a visibly distressed state, her sadness and disappointment showing in every gesture and every glance. She could hardly maintain her usual composure. The heavy emotional burden left her exhausted both mentally and physically. Overlapping thoughts followed one another, painful and disheartening, making it difficult for her to put anything into words. She simply sat there in silence, her face downcast and her gaze distant. Tone's father stayed by her side, doing his best to keep his voice gentle as he tried to reassure her. He advised her to set aside the overly stressful thoughts for the moment, to rest more and take better care of her health, as the wedding was approaching and her spirits could not be allowed to decline further. He reminded her that her health was the most important thing right now, and that everything else could be discussed later, that she should not push herself to the point of exhaustion. The whole family quietly understood that what had happened could not be changed overnight. The truth was too great and too sudden for anyone to accept or make firm decisions immediately. Everything would need time to settle, time to think, to discuss matters carefully, and to gradually learn how to face and accept the unexpected realities now before them. Even after knowing the full truth, Tone did not change his decision. He told his father that the feelings he had for Trang did not come from a sense of responsibility or obligation, but from genuine love that had grown through the time they spent together. Tone affirmed that he was willing to care for and protect both Trang and her child, to regard the baby as part of the life he had chosen, because to him, what mattered most was not blood ties, but sincere affection and emotional bonds. In a gentle voice, Tone asked his father to support him, not through hasty acceptance, but by giving him time to prove that his choice was serious and responsible. He also hoped his father would help persuade his mother so that she could better understand the circumstances, understand that Trang had no intention to deceive anyone, and see that he was trying to do the best and most right thing within his ability. There was urgency in Tone's words, mixed with anxiety, because he clearly understood how important his father's role and voice were at this moment. Listening to his son, Tone's father remained silent for a long while before slowly admitting that he could not accept the truth immediately. The shock was too great, too sudden, leaving his thoughts and emotions in turmoil. He said that he needed time to think, to sort everything out in his mind, because not everyone can calmly accept such a heavy truth overnight. Tone's mother fell into a visibly distressed state, her sadness and disappointment showing in every gesture and every glance. She could hardly maintain her usual composure. The heavy emotional burden left her exhausted both mentally and physically. Overlapping thoughts followed one another, painful and disheartening, making it difficult for her to put anything into words. She simply sat there in silence, her face downcast and her gaze distant. Tone's father stayed by her side, doing his best to keep his voice gentle as he tried to reassure her. He advised her to set aside the overly stressful thoughts for the moment, to rest more and take better care of her health, as the wedding was approaching and her spirits could not be allowed to decline further. He reminded her that her health was the most important thing right now, and that everything else could be discussed later, that she should not push herself to the point of exhaustion. The whole family quietly understood that what had happened could not be changed overnight. The truth was too great and too sudden for anyone to accept or make firm decisions immediately. Everything would need time to settle, time to think, to discuss matters carefully, and to gradually learn how to face and accept the unexpected realities now before them. The story gradually shifted into a gentler rhythm, as if the tensions were temporarily set aside to make room for simple, everyday moments. Everyone spent time caring for little Ivy, paying attention to the smallest gestures, from straightening her clothes to soothing her when she fussed softly. Ivy sat in the middle, her clear eyes looking around, occasionally bursting into laughter at the tiniest things, softening the atmosphere around her. The whole family shared pastries and sweet cotton candy together, eating and chatting in an innocent, carefree way, with no one mentioning the heavy matters from before. Casual remarks and quiet laughter filled the air, mixed with the attentive care given to the child, creating a scene that felt warm and intimate. Ivy held the cotton candy in her hands, delighted by its colors, then laughed aloud, prompting the adults to smile along without even realizing it. It was precisely these small moments that brought a strong sense of family, a natural closeness that didn't need to be spoken aloud. Affection was expressed through simple actions, through sitting a little closer together and speaking a little more slowly. Though the worries and tensions were still there, for a brief while they seemed to soften, giving way to warmth and peace spreading through the shared space. As night fell, and the surroundings grew quieter, Trang lay still, her mind wandering through thoughts about her life and her present sense of happiness. In that silence, she slowly reflected on what had happened and what was still unfolding, clearly sensing each small emotion weaving its way into her heart. Trang cherished the care Hai showed her, from the simplest gestures to the way he always paid attention, looked after her, and quietly stayed by her side whenever she needed him. His presence gave her a feeling of being loved and protected, a sense of peace she did not always have. Being with Hai made Trang feel lighter, free from overthinking, without pressure or demands. Yet deep down, she was also honest with herself that she was not truly ready to step into marriage. The experiences and upheavals she had been through made her need more time to settle, to understand what she wanted and what she needed for the road ahead. For Trang at this moment, simply being together, being cared for, and sharing the present meant a great deal, enough for her to feel warmth and quiet reassurance in her heart. The wedding continued to draw closer each day, standing clearly ahead like an unavoidable milestone. Yet behind all the preparations, there were still far too many unresolved matters. The relationship between Trang and Tone's mother remained covered by a heavy silence, with no real chance yet to face each other and speak openly about their deepest thoughts. The wounds within the family, especially the emotional shock Tone's mother had endured, were still there, quietly lingering and not yet healed, making the atmosphere tense at times even though no one put it into words. For Trang, the future was still an undefined space, lacking a clear shape. She stood amid a tangle of emotions, gratitude, anxiety, and nameless doubts. What had happened made her understand that wanting to move forward was not always enough, that there were cracks that needed to be acknowledged and healed before anything lasting could be built. Everything seemed to be suspended in between, not peaceful enough to feel secure, yet not broken beyond repair. What was needed was more time for things to settle, more understanding from all sides, and a decision strong and mature enough to allow them to move forward, whatever direction that might be, once everyone was ready to face the truth and their own emotions.
Mình đang tiếp tục làm video. Hôm nay thì ở chỗ mình nó bị mất điện nên là mình làm video hơi có muộn tí. Mình vừa mới tắm rửa xong, bây giờ là 5 giờ chiều rồi, mình mới bắt đầu công việc. Hôm nay thì chắc mình sẽ làm tối. Do hôm nay ban ngày thì mất điện không làm được nên là đi chơi rồi, nên là tối hôm nay thì sẽ làm bù nha. Hiện tại thì vì vẫn đang làm nội dung video và chưa có xong. Mọi người hãy đón xem video của mình nhé. Tạm biệt.